first game I played against Kobe.
The very first time I played against him. The first time I ever got, actually playing against him.
Remember, damn, I'm on a court with Kobe.
I was just in awe.
I'm not sure if I could even do it any justice, really.
It's a guy who I would tape on my wall when I lived in Spring Hill in apartment 602. To be able to share the floor with him was like for any kid that has aspirations or has inspiring moments from someone, it's just like a sense of awe.
I remember most just watching somebody that I literally grew up watching on YouTube.
And I remember just watching him, just like, I'm really about to line up against Kobe.
I remember lining up the jump ball against Andrew Bynum and looking over and seeing, Kobe. And that's when it was surreal for me. That's when I realized I was really a part of the NBA.
I think the thing that stood out most to me about playing Kobe that first time was his pregame warm-up. Why is he working out at 4 o'clock and it's a 7:30 game? By the time I finished watching his workout, I had missed my lift, my treatment time. As a young guy, you get the early slots, and once you miss it, it's over. I had missed everything. And I think for me personally, that was just a moment in my life where it was I'm sitting here watching Kobe, and nothing else really mattered to me at that point.
What were you trying to do out on the court that night?
For me, not to get, 50 dropped on me. My rookie year, we played against them in the playoffs. And I was just trying my best. I was just talking smack. I was just in his ear. He wasn't fazed by it.
At the Forum, my rookie year, we played against them, and I got switched on to him in an ISO situation. I'm, scrawny, 170-pound rookie coming in, and the look he gave me was so damn disrespectful. It was crazy.
He hissed like an actual snake. Whenever he wanted the ball, he would make a hissing sound. And it threw me all the way off. I didn't know that was a thing.
He was just testing me. He was just testing to see what I was made of. He was testing to see what type of mentality I had. And he was just testing me to see, who I was as a person and what I stood for. I wanted to gain his respect so much at that moment.
And he was just stone-faced, straight killer mode the whole game.
It's down to 7. Starting to make his move for the win. He got the lead for him.
I remember we got our ass kicked. I remember that.
I think I'm a pretty, physical defender and all that stuff. And I'm a young pup. And I could tell you he beat the living out of me without even having the ball.
I always tell the story. I got a switch on Kobe. He was posting me up. I blocked his shot in the ball. Bounced the half court and I went running after full speed. It was a big moment for me because I could brag to my friends that I blocked Kobe Bryant's shot.
This guy's a blur. Kobe, deep three. Got it.
He got the ball back and shot a 3. He said, the play continues, young fella.
He says that. John Wall, get this one.
The very first time was actually here in LA. It was my assignment to guard Kobe. Obviously having B. Shaw as an assistant. And B. Shaw's jawing at him. Egging him on, getting him riled up, talking mess from the bench. Here I am in the middle while all of this is going on. I was guarding him, and he got to his back down, his patent pump fake, and I went flying for it. A young guy trying to go block his shot. I went flying for it, and he caught me in the air. He ran down. Specifically ran down to where B. Shaw was and he yelled at B. Shaw, check the young fella for feathers.
The first time that I played against him was when I was in Chicago and he was with the Lakers. And I just remember him asking Michael Jordan all these questions on the court the whole time. But I think what ultimately made him who he was that audacity to ask Michael Jordan for pointers in his very first game against him. Think about most 18-year-olds, they'd be scared to death to go against Michael. And he was just inquisitive. It's pretty remarkable.
He was just our generation's Jordan in terms of iconic moves, ISO stuff, fadeaways, game winners.
I tried to emulate how he moved down to what he said to you guys in the media, to how he worked out before the games, what he watched. I would really try to study it as much as possible. I would never told him that, But as a younger player, I was really just copying everything he did. He's my idol growing up, and it was just a blessing to be on the same court as him and compete.
It was me and him. Nobody on that court mattered. Nothing else mattered. It was everything for me. It was everything for me. It was the best moment of my life.
What's up, Fantasy Champions? Spotlight Sports Network is excited to tell you about an amazing deal from Thrive Fantasy, your place for daily fantasy sports and esports. Right now, with promo code SS Network, Thrive Fantasy will match up to $50 of your first deposit. So go to thrivefantasy.com and sign up now with promo code SS Network. That's thrivefantasy.com, promo code SS Network. Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake SIlva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome here on a Tuesday night. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. We're live on all social media platforms in the 702 in Las Vegas. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can like, follow, and subscribe to all media platforms. And also hit the bell button to keep you guys up to date with everything on future and past shows. Man, I'm glad to be here in the building tonight. And we have so much to end up talking about. And before we do, obviously today is a hard day for everybody within the league and a hard day for everybody around the world and even here in the U.S. That today marks the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Kobe Bryant and Gigi Bryant. Unspeakable. And it was one of those moments. And I was in a softball tournament when I found out the news. And I remembered it first kicked on TMZ. And to me, when it comes to TMZ, I'm like, yeah, come on, it's TMZ. But then once the news broke out on SportsCenter and it broke out everywhere, I knew I wasn't dreaming. And I knew for a second, this literally happened. And I mean, it was the toughest loss. It felt like you lost a family member in your family. And Kobe, the type of mentality he brought to the league, the type of inspiration he brought to the world, and what he meant all through and through, became such a huge impact in all of our lives. And to seeing a tragedy like that go down 1 year is one we'll never be able to understand how, why, what the outcome happened in it, and so much more. But all I know was is that altogether they left a mark. Kobe and Gigi did. Gigi was the future. And Kobe left his mark, done his time for 20 years, and had always surprised us with the shots, always kept us glued to the televisions and kept us excited. And so, as of today, always and forever, rest in paradise, Kobe and Gigi. All right, so as I've gotten that out the way, I want to start to shift into this. So we're recapping a little bit of Championship Sunday, right? Because every single one of us, we're so excited for what the Super Bowl now is bringing, because we got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and we've got Tom Brady and the Bucs. So let's start with the first championship game. That was Buffalo and Kansas City. Let me just tell every single one of you right now, everything I've witnessed from Kansas City is unbelievable. And a lot of you, sometimes myself as well, a lot of you guys can end up saying what you want to about Kansas City and so much more. I had my words to say about them. Why are these games getting closer and closer? Well, Sunday night, they blew the tires wide open. And listen, nothing against Buffalo. Josh Allen's young. He's developing, he's growing, and eventually he's going to get to that point. Buffalo is in no shape or form of struggling by next year. They're not. As long as McDermott and potentially Brian Dable, because a lot of, the coaching hires and so much more, the only head coaching job that's wide open is Houston. And who's really going to take that job? But what I saw out of Kansas City is one that everybody can undeniably agree. They're just that good. They're just that talented. It ain't just all about Patrick Mahomes. A lot of it is everyone around him, is what makes the team great. And what also makes the team greater is who they've got at the helm as head coach. And Andy Reid, since he took the job in Kansas City, and after being booted out of Philly, he managed to make all of this work. Wins, losses, it didn't matter what the season predicted or what the outcome was. Every single one of these players, Mahomes sat out the last game of the year. He probably could have at least gotten MVP numbers, but he didn't care about that. Travis Kelce could have had big time numbers and would have been the best tight end in the league in this year, but he didn't care about that. A lot of these other players, these big time starters, they didn't care about statistics. They didn't care about their personal accolades. What truly was laid on the line, what's still in front of them. And that's the Vince Lombardi Trophy. That is much more powerful, achieving than any personal accolade could compete with. And it speaks a lot, speaks an awful lot of volumes. When you look at Hall of Fame, you don't only just see their personal accolades. You can even see up on their engraved Super Bowl champion. Because maybe every single one of these players, when they go into the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, they want to be engraved as Super Bowl champions. Because they'll look back, they'll remember those years, and that's truly what it's all about. That's where it becomes team effort. Right now, Kansas City's not paying Patrick Mahomes the big time money just yet. He's only got the 1 year left of that rookie contract, and then that's when the pay starts. And you've got a long, long amount of time. Don't waste it on, because once the bill gets expensive, and we all know that, right? We all see that sometimes when it comes to our cable bills. It comes to a lot of these bills because they start to get expensive over time. Whenever you start to get into a pack, imagine what Kansas City's payroll will be. But in this very moment, the defense was playing better also. The defense, I thought, was playing really, really good for Kansas City. But in the end, this team is more than just personal accolades. And to be quite honest with you, and even as just being a fan within the division, like, they're unstoppable. They're unstoppable. You could try all you want. Try every single idea. Try every single special play. But regardless of it, they're unstoppable. And that is what's going to be the big time difference maker. They are going to have to make tough decisions down the road. But in these very moments right now, Kansas City is undeniably one of the better teams in the NFL. The coach, the quarterback, and everybody else around them. There's no way of beating them. There's no way of beating them. And Sunday night proved to you exactly why. Proved to you exactly why. To me, I thought Buffalo was the hottest team rolling in. But the one problem was they were too one-dimensional. Didn't have a really good run game. That's one part that they're going to have to fix. But they fixed one component. That was having a deep ball wide receiver. They fixed it. And Josh Allen had great numbers. But all in all, if you could tell, the better team beyond it was definitely Kansas City. Listen, going back to back is not easy. It's not as easy as it looks. It's not as easy as it sounds. So we'll have to just see it as it plays on. But Kansas City, through and through, they'll be an unstoppable team for years. All right, let's go and move and shift to the other side in the NFC, where we start to talk about what happened in that game. Because now, old man Tommy, he's back in the Super Bowl, baby. Oh, no. It's not the Patriots. No, this is a different team. This is Tampa Bay Buccaneers we're talking about. A team that hadn't even been back in the Super Bowl since 2002. And that was an interesting year where you had John Gruden, you had John Lynch, you had Warren Sapp, you had Joey Galloway, you had Keyshawn Johnson, and their quarterback, none of you could even remember, was Dan Johnson. But man, was this interesting. Wasn't that interesting Sunday? And I thought this was a great matchup, but to me personally, I thought Green Bay would have had everything needed to beating Tampa Bay. But let me just tell you the takeaways. Now, I just didn't know how to feel. I talked with my colleagues about this. I'm not shunning the greatness of Tom Brady. I'm not. What I was completely speechless at the end of the game. If any of you had seen my live stream, you'd seen how I looked. I was speechless. I couldn't even come up with the words. Because you're talking about, officiating. Some of them would talk about Aaron Rodgers and what happened. Then in the end, it was all Tom Brady. But here was the interesting part. Tom Brady had 3 interceptions. And Jair Alexander, who I think was a really, really good secondary for Green Bay, played his butt off. But what's interesting about that, Aaron Rodgers had so many opportunities, so many chances, and so many different ways of getting down the field, scoring, and getting Green Bay on the board. Let me tell you how many breaks. Jair Alexander, 1 interception. Aaron Rodgers, you got an opportunity. You got to get downfield. 3 and out. Next time around, Tom Brady throws up. Jair Alexander, another interception. Green Bay's got another chance, and Aaron Rodgers, he could redeem himself. Another 3 and out. Folks, I don't know about you, but I thought Green Bay was much, much better than that. And I thought they were the better improved team in the NFC. But apparently, throughout all of this, because listen, in this day and age now, when certain things don't work, even when they get the breaks, people like to point fingers. They like to play the blame game. Like, who are we going to blame? We'll blame this guy. We'll blame that. And we'll blame the refs. We'll blame that. Everybody likes to. Not everybody in this generation wants to hold them own selves accountable. Not anymore. And if there's one person that really should be holding themselves accountable for everything like that, I think you should just lay that on Aaron Rodgers. You had so many breaks, you had so many different opportunities, and you couldn't get it done. Listen, there were a couple of times, they were without David Bakhtiari. They were without a couple of guys. Devontae Adams was open a bunch of times. You could see that. But there were throws to Alan Lazard. There were throws to MVS. Something didn't seem right. And the run game, I thought, was ground and pound. You were trading it off between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, who I truly think the run game next season is not going to be interesting, but A.J. Dillon's a hell of a running back. I think he's going to be something interesting to watch, but I do not think they're going to be as great as people think because Aaron Jones is a free agent. This will be very interesting to see how this pans out, but in the end, and now Green Bay's got something very interesting on their hands because apparently Aaron Rodgers, and what I found very interesting is that now Aaron Rodgers, of course, unpredictable with the future of his teammates, but he's also unpredictable about his own future. What an interesting conversation that is. And listen, and a lot of people I think can agree with me with this. Yeah, I do take questions, Charles Alexander. What's going on, man? I appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys have questions and everything for me, definitely feel free to ask me. I'm doing good, NBA 2K League. Appreciate you coming on by. Well, I mean, you're on the stream here, Ryan Gage. What's going on, Sacred? What's going on, BL, my good friend? And of course, definitely diehard hater fan up over there. But again, you can't mistake it, man. Can't mistake it. But all in all, the future apparently seems to be it's unpredictable now with Aaron Rodgers. What's going on, official Bobo? What's going on? So this is going to be an interesting thing for Green Bay. But remember this. They didn't just trade up into the draft to drafting a quarterback named Jordan Love. There was a reason behind all that. And people start to see it's protecting the future or it's pushing Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron don't like that. But that, I think, is going to be very interesting to see. I just don't know. I just don't think that in this point in time, I mean, listen, you could say what you want to. If this happens by this offseason, where Aaron Rodgers is just going to look back, he ain't even going to go back to Green Bay, then the only destination that I can think of, to be quite honest with all of you, is San Francisco. That's the only place. Listen, San Francisco, this is what's interesting about this. San Francisco, I mean, they've got questions about Jimmy G. But years ago, Aaron Rodgers was drafted by Green Bay, and he was overlooked by San Francisco because instead they took a young quarterback named Alex Smith out of Utah. So it will be very interesting. And Aaron Rodgers is a NorCal kid, if that's the case. But nowhere else do I see Aaron Rodgers anywhere. And Green Bay's got a tough decision to make with this. Because the second this happens, I mean, listen, you got an offensive-minded guru in Matt LaFleur who really changed up this whole culture as far as their offense is concerned. But it's going to be very interesting, and they're going to have a busy day. All right, coming up next, while we're also going to be looking at questions as well, I'm going to be talking at least a little bit of the quarterback carousel. And you guys are going to be very interested to see what my thoughts are about this, because now it's getting crazy. It's getting out of hand. And I'm loving it. I love it when they stir the pot up and everything else. And it's kind of crazy. So you guys do not want to end up missing that. Plus, I'll also be talking at least a little bit of some baseball, even reminiscing of Kobe Bryant as well. You guys do not want to end up missing that. Is it just NFL or is it also NHL? It's all sports, Charles Alexander. It's all sports. NFL, NHL, NBA, and MLB. It's all the sports right there. Why aren't you doing the Knights game? So tonight I wanted to do the show, but I am going to end up doing the Knights and Blues game on Thursday. I just wanted to be able to get this show up out the way because we've got Super Bowl coming up. So yeah, I definitely wanted to get my thoughts out and everything on my regular show. 45 million a year starting in 2022 with few to little draft picks to replenish. Other teams are going to pick apart Kansas City players and staff. That's true. How long will this be? So this is an hour-long type of live stream. This is an hour-long live stream, so definitely fill in your questions and everything else as well, Charles. And I will definitely get to them. Big fan of thank you so much, Official Bobo. I appreciate it, man. If you guys haven't done so already, like, subscribe, hit the bell button for all latest notifications on future shows. You guys do not want to end up missing that. I'm going to end up taking a slight break, but I will be back to be discussing this quarterback carousel here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. But here are some other shows you guys could look at here on the Spotlight Sports Network. So on those three shows that you saw here on the Spotlight Sports Network, you guys are diehard New York Jets fans and you guys do love Jets content, definitely check out Gang Green David. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell button. Also check out Key in the building. She's always in the building with everything Philadelphia. Flyers, Phillies, Eagles, and the Sixers content. Don't want to end up missing that here on the Spotlight Sports Network. And also, finally, if you guys are diehard wrestling fans, you know the Royal Rumble's this weekend. And I'm definitely going to end up tuning into it. Now, it's been interesting because the deal now is signed off that WWE Network is now going to be part of Peacock. You guys do not want to end up missing that. But if you guys love AEW, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, and so much more, definitely check out Mal Gooley, a.k.a. Malcolm Bean, at the Gooley Zone here on the Spotlight Sports Network. All right, folks. So this quarterback carousel has been exciting to see. Unfortunately, Charles, because I got other stuff going on, I wish I could make this 2 hours. I think by tomorrow's episode, I could definitely have a 2-hour show as well to be talking at least a little bit more of NHL. But unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that I got to get off and take care of. But I will have a 2-hour show tomorrow night. So you don't want to end up missing that. So this quarterback carousel that I very much wanted to get into, because we've been talking bits and pieces about the Deshaun Watson thing. And Deshaun Watson, as I've said before, the best move he could possibly make is going to the Jets. Because at this point, it's a mess in Houston. It's a mess everywhere around. And there's no real reason there's no real way of solving it. That's what it's come down to. So that's the one thing that I've really been interested to see in is what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson moving forward. Because ultimately, Houston screwed this thing up big time. They didn't give him a better offensive line outside of Laramie Tunsil. They traded away one of his number one receivers in DeAndre Hopkins, and now it's become a complete mess for Houston. So I think the perfect ideal spot will be the New York Jets. And he even said it himself. He wants to work alongside with Robert Saleh. He feels comfortable, and he feels like he gets a lot more understanding. And here's the other thing. If he goes to the Jets, they've got the number 2 pick in the draft. And they got plenty of cap space. And they've also got draft picks. If you make this thing happen, and Deshaun, here's the unfortunate part for Sam Darnold. Darnold, unfortunately, has had no real developer since, I would probably argue, Todd Bowles. That's it. But outside of that, Sam Darnold has not had any real good developers at head coach. Not one. And Adam Gase, unfortunately, got the worst out of Darnold. But if they want to make this trade to getting Deshaun Watson, the only thing I can say is that if they make this happen and you have the number 2 pick, I'd be getting Devontae Smith. I'd be getting the kid from Alabama. Because at that point, you've got Denzel Mims, who I think is going to be very remarkable as a wide receiver. You're going to have Devontae Smith there as another young receiver, talented. I think he's going to drop a lot of jaws. I mean, he's very athletic and he's very dynamic. And plus, they're going to end up fixing this run game. This is what I thought was interesting because I ended up looking at the mock draft a couple times and they started to say the Jets get the Clemson running back, Travis Etienne. And I've been saying that Travis Etienne is basically another Alvin Kamara, a guy that's going to be very, very interesting. He's going to be special. And I think he'll be a big time difference maker. Now, the one thing that I wanted to talk about was what's going on in Detroit. Because right now, the Detroit Lions, they're in a big jam. But hey, you had a long time to develop this right. And right now, rumor reports that Matthew Stafford, the Detroit Lions and him are agreeing to mutually part ways, seeking a trade, seeking for much, much more. If you asked me what I think is an ideal position, and mind you, there are a few things that I can tell you about Matthew Stafford, why I think he would be a best fit for this destination. I know I've been saying about Carson Wentz going to the Colts, but after firing Doug Peterson and going and getting Nick Sirianni, I think has changed that. It's changed the temperature in the room. Now, he's got a lot of things to fix up because you're dealing with Carson Wentz, you're dealing with Jalen Hurts. It's going to be very interesting how you regain that trust back. Now, maybe he gets it in a point where now it's a new head coach in office, but it will be interesting how he repairs and restores. But here's the other thing. The other thing I want to point out is that for the Colts, Chris Ballard is a hell of a general manager. Smart. Acquires so many different draft picks. And plus, he's very transformative when it comes to talent. You watch Quentin Nelson, you watch Darius Leonard, you watch a lot of these guys. Eventually, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I've said it that this kid was a steal along with Michael Pittman Jr. because this is a kid out of Wisconsin that's got grit. The guy's strong. The guy is built. And he's going to be so much fun running the football. He ain't had a big-time running back since Edgerrin James, since Joseph Adai. There was a bunch of different Colt running backs. And I think Jonathan Taylor fits the bill. But the one thing that I think Chris Ballard is not going to turn away from in this opportunity, because let me tell you the quarterbacks they're going to have, because Phillip Rivers now being retired, they'll still have Jacoby Brissett, but it'll be interesting to see if they retain him or not. And then they've got the young kid from Washington, Jacob Eason. If I'm Chris Ballard, because right now things are not great in Detroit. You know, I was told a bunch of times, you know, when it came to certain relationships and when it came to certain people, you know, I was told this so many times and why things really didn't work out. Or maybe you try to work things out, but then in the end, there was not a whole lot of emotional support. There was not a whole lot of building, and it was difficult. There were times where people had told me, Jake, man, you're so amazing. You're a great guy. And all this other stuff. And then it always leads to this. That we don't deserve you. You know, and it's so much more. And maybe this is just a wake-up call for the worth of Matthew Stafford. Because think about it. Number 1 overall pick out of Georgia. The kid has so much talent. He's 32 years old. And he tried so hard to make this work for Detroit. But Detroit is such a ran down franchise. They don't make it work. They don't even give the support. They don't even give a lot to really build. When was the last time Detroit really had a solid offensive line? Because last time I checked, there was the wide receiver. They didn't really even have a big-time running back since Barry Sanders. And everybody loved watching Barry run. They didn't even have a legitimate defense. So at this point in Matthew Stafford's career, here we are. Stafford, you're awesome, man. You're putting up damn great numbers. We don't deserve you. We don't deserve you. And that's why that they're making mutual parting ways. And this happens in everywhere we are. If things don't work in those businesses, because maybe the business is going through something very, very intense and just doesn't want, you know, a big time talent like Stafford to go down and so much more. Or maybe, you know, you have the one interest, whether it's a guy, whether it's a girl, whatever you ended up going through in your past. And I tell people all the time, what happens in the past should stay there. It should not have an effect of what you should be doing now to reshape and rebuild your future. Because how do you think long-lasting relationships work? And how do you even think they start? Because two people, they find a mutual feeling, and at the same time, both of them may have gone through hardships. Both of them may have gone through a lot of heartbreaks. They've gone through a lot of teardowns, and they just are trying to find their inner happiness and trying to make something work. Because one thing you want to do is it's a 50-50 thing, not an 80-20% or 60-40. But at the same time, it's all about how you communicate, and it's all about how you build. I feel like Matthew Stafford to the Colts sound like the great communicators. They sound like the great builders. They sound exactly like those who they sound like a team that gives the emotional support. Stafford's 32. I feel like Matthew Stafford deserves it. Think about it. You're down on the long road. You're building yourself up to your best potential. And there are so many people around. There's so many fish in the sea. But only the right ones will actually come out, and they'll see the worth in you. They'll see exactly what you're capable of. If I'm the Colts, you're just about the right destination for a guy like Matthew Stafford. A guy who's put up hella numbers. A guy that's only 32 years old. If you make this deal happen, you're getting at least max 5 years. 5 years of Stafford. Then at that point, that's enough time for you to then develop the next big thing and so much more. And that's it. But this is where it really has to come down to the nitty-gritty. That's where I feel like Matthew Stafford works in Indianapolis. But here's my thing. If you put Matthew Stafford to the Raiders, I'm not saying the Raiders are a terrible team. I'm not saying that at all. But think about what the Raiders have to do. They have to focus on defense. They cannot get conservative with him. He's already had too much conservation with Detroit. The last thing he wants is to be conservative again. And so I'm not sure if that works, but here's the other thing. Here's the double-edged sword. You get rid of Carr, the last thing you want is those years where Carr's younger than Stafford. And Carr's not the problem. He's not the absolute problem. And that's what's interesting. So I just don't think that this would work. But here's the other thing. The Patriots, I think, would be a very interesting move too. Because if they don't, then the one thing that I could say, they're going to draft a quarterback. They should draft a quarterback. Because they're trying to recover from all of this, and they're trying to make it work again. And yeah, the defense is a problem for the Raiders. Is Stafford better than $20 million? Absolutely. And listen, Phillip Rivers is a statistical quarterback who should be in the Hall of Fame, not first ballot. Not first ballot at all. But in my opinion, Stafford would definitely be better because you're getting the arm talent. You've got an offensive line that can protect him. You've got a young core, weapons around him. You've got a young core, and that works. And you've got a defense. That is the part. And remember, Indianapolis is only a quarterback away from where they're going to be the scariest team, not even just in their division, but in the AFC. And I'm not saying Stafford would be better than Mahomes, but if you put those two toe to toe, that is an interesting thing. I want no part of that. I want no part of that if I'm facing Indianapolis with that at all. I'm just telling you that. So I think it'll be interesting, but again, like certain people, man or woman, you deserve the absolute best in your life. The ones who motivate you. And I think Matthew Stafford absolutely deserves the best to keeping his career intact. Time for the hot press. So, we got some interesting stuff from here, but this I thought was huge. So, Major League Baseball has announced there are no new members in the Hall of Fame. The first time that's ever happened in 2013. And here's another thing, because there are two takeaways. So one, Curt Schilling, the former pitcher, he wants to be taken out on his final year of the ballot. Because what I think is interesting about this, and I'm going to be talking about colleagues about this in a later time, but to me, this was huge. No members since 2013. And I think Major League Baseball, because listen, I understand with this COVID protocol, but at the same time, it's the Hall of Fame. Baseball fans like myself love it when certain players get inducted into immortality. And it's always been a baseball tradition. So there are two guys that are still there on their final year, Barry Bonds and Curt Schilling. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Is it about that time that Major League Baseball just enough with just this whole thing, enough with this whole entire, steroid era and stuff like that? Because think about it. Craig Biggio made it in. And Biggio, who was part of that steroid era, never did it. Never did. He was pure. He was clean. A kid from Long Island. The guy was awesome. Barry Bonds, and I'm going to tell you this right now, a bunch of my friends that I play baseball and I play softball with, and those that are lefties at the plate, the one thing they've told me that how they learn to hit lefty. I mean, they watched Barry Bonds. Yeah, BL, I've been to Cooperstown before. I've been there since I was when I was 13 years old. I went to Cooperstown. Beautiful. Fantastic. I mean, that's like a moment as a kid that like any baseball fan dreams of. But here's the other thing too, because my first trip, I went to the Bronx. I went to the old Yankee Stadium. And this was during when the postseason was going on. And I got a chance to tour around old Yankee Stadium, and I got a chance to walk on the field. Like, that's legends. That's an essence that you feel when you're on the field, when you're right there behind a home plate, and you see it. It's unbelievable. But it will be interesting. It will be very interesting to see how this works on. But can we just give it a break, guys? Can we give it a break? Listen, there's nobody that I know that has the fastest bat speed than Barry Bonds did. If you look at any one of his highlights from Pittsburgh or from the Giants, I don't care. Yeah, there's nobody that could teach that. Griffey had the smoothest swing as a lefty, but the fastest one was definitely Barry Bonds. I mean, this is unbelievable. Crazy to think. All right. So here's an interesting one. So I did talk about Deshaun Watson about going to the Jets. Now, here's the other part, and I think this is also going to be interesting that's going to brew up this quarterback carousel thing. So there are still some speculations about this whole thing with Deshaun Watson. Now the Miami Dolphins have grown as a potential interest and a potential landing spot for Deshaun Watson. I'm interested to see that, because think about it. You're dealing with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills twice a year. You're dealing with the Jets twice a year, who knows what who their quarterback is going to be, or vice versa. You got the Patriots twice a year. They're either going to get a quarterback out of the draft or they're going to get him out of free agency, whatever. But Miami already has their coach in Brian Flores, and I thought he was spectacular. I thought he was phenomenal. But it will be interesting to see how Miami, because they drafted Tua. There's not a whole trust in Tua yet. And listen, I've been told from one person, like, Tua's better than Herbert. Come on. Tua hasn't even thrown for over 300 yards passing yet. Are you kidding me? But there are speculations about this. But if this is the case, I mean, what do you do with that? But the other talks about this is Devontae Smith, because the Dolphins have the third pick in the draft, thanks to Houston. And if Devontae Smith does not go to the Jets, if they get Deshaun Watson, then the other landing spot would be the Miami Dolphins and reuniting with Tua Tagovailoa. I think that'll be very interesting to watch. But again, this is the carousel. This is where the carousel continues to roll and continues to stir. So I like to see that. So here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers. So finally, the Green Bay Packers. So Aaron Rodgers thinks he'll be back with the Green Bay Packers, but there are no absolutes in the NFL. So this was 2 days after Aaron Rodgers opened up speculation about his future with the Green Bay Packers. The presumptive NFL MVP said on Tuesday that he has reason to think he will be back with the only team he's ever played for during his 16-year tenure. However, he put the emphasis on the word think when he was on the show with Pat McAfee, on the Pat McAfee show, and it was interesting. And he did say this continuing on. I don't think that there is any reason why I wouldn't be back. But look, there's not many absolutes in this business. So to make an absolute statement about something that is not an absolute, I didn't do it. And I guess that's why it went kind of nuts. Why do you think everybody was freaking out about it? And listen, understand, it wasn't an absolute when they went up and drafted Jordan Love in the first round, right? There was a reason behind it. Brett Favre dealt with this. Now Aaron Rodgers is dealing with this. And Green Bay, they have a good defense, but they're still a few parts away. And so much more. If Aaron Rodgers left today, Green Bay would not be the same team. And you're working on developing Jordan Love until he is ready. Like Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love is raw. He's talented, got a good arm strength out of Utah State. This is interesting. So, however they like I said, I feel like if there is a destination, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't return to Green Bay, San Francisco would be the other place. But that's the only thing that I'm going to say from that. But who knows? Like he said, nothing's an absolute in this business. Nothing. So I don't know how this is going to favor out. But I just think we need to just relax, take a breather, let this all just kind of process. No moves have been sincere yet. So don't freak out. Let it stir for a little bit. But that's really all that I could say about all of that with Aaron Rodgers. It's either Green Bay or San Francisco. That's all I'm going to give it. All right, that was your hot press. All right, so, just before we go up on to break, I reminisced a lot about Kobe and the times that we watched. It was very interesting. So my thing with Kobe, and I remember watching him since I was a kid. And like I said, I was very young. I was 5. And I just remember watching just his greatness. I actually had a Lakers uni, little prop uni. And then I had one of those propped hoops that I was imitating all the dunks, shooting Kobe every time. Kobe was an absolute inspiration in my life. I could tell you this. I know none of us would know Kobe personally. If some do, it's amazing. But to me, when I watch him on the floor, when I watch him on the news and so many other places, there's nothing he works so hard for than building to be the better person the better version of himself. He was so dialed in. He was so to the point, very thorough. Wakes up at 4 a.m. just to practice, just to shoot hoops, just to work on his game. And he told everybody, I shot over 80 times. I could shoot for 100 if I wanted to. because I'm trying. I mean, my God, it was a freak of nature. Every single one of us idolized Kobe and all of his greatness. It's nothing to take away from Michael Jordan. It's not to take away from LeBron. It's not to take away from anything. But what Kobe gave us was so unique and it was so interesting. And, and even to this day, I utilize my life, my motivation, and the way I kind of see the world and the way that I think is I utilize Mamba mentality because of that. And it really has shaped my life. You don't quit. You don't throw in the towel. And no matter how much that it burns, it hurts, soreness, so much of it doesn't matter. They're temporary pains. They're temporary pains. They're not permanent. The permanent pain is what happens inside or in here. If your heart and mind don't connect alike, you have a serious problem. And that pain sometimes doesn't go away. Sometimes those pains drive you to do things crazy. But all these other temporary ones, you can put a Band-Aid on for a small cut. You can get surgery on, if you torn a rotator cuff, and so much of it. But what's a huge damage is what happens in here and what happens here. Kobe gave us exactly what it looks like when your heart and your mind is determined and it's sharpened. Wherever your walk of life is, business, relationship, life, family, so much. Be the difference maker. Be the difference maker today. And that's ultimately what it's all about. That's why, even on this day in the 1-year anniversary of Kobe, I utilize that. I idolize that. And I use it as motivation and preparation. Because when we all have Mamba mentality, we all can make the world a greater place. And we can be better versions of ourselves. So those are my memories of Kobe. And like I said, Mamba always and forever is the way that I always like to view it. So coming up next, to wrap up the rest of the show, I'm at my best for last as well. It's my top twos now, because since we're down to 2 teams, I'm going to be breaking all those down, every single one of those teams. And I think we already know the obviouses. So be back. But Charles Alexander, I know we needed a hockey channel and everything else, man. I didn't exactly get your question and stuff like that. But like I said, definitely check me out on Thursday. I am going to have that live stream there for the Golden Knights and for the Blues. So I did watch Wayne Gretzky. I did. I watched bits and pieces of Wayne Gretzky. Hell of a talent. Shout out to the Waterloo Iowa Warriors and Blackhawks hockey teams. Absolutely. So, absolutely, man. I'd also make the argument Herbert has way better weapons than Tua does. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys, going to be taking a slight break from here, and then I'll be coming back with my best for last. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the My City, My Game pod show featuring Raider J77, your place for all things Raiders and all things Trailblazers. Brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now let's go.
Alrighty, guys. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here on the live stream with me today. And then, like I said, I will also have my show tomorrow night. You guys do not want to end up missing that. I really do appreciate it. And by the way, if you guys haven't done so already, there are a few things happening. So one, all of the merchandise that you saw right there earlier, we still do have a deal going on that when you go online to the spotlightsportsgear.com, all of your purchases, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and so much more, they're 15% off through the rest of January. You guys do not want to end up missing up on that deal. If you guys love the show, you want to rep the show with this kind of merchandise right here, I suggest you guys definitely grab yours at the spotlightsportsgear.com and shop online. Look for Snake Sports Talk Show. Really do appreciate it, you guys, and all your love and support. And also, we are just close. There's a giveaway that's also going on for the Spotlight Sports Network. And I'm going to be pulling this up really, really fast. But the giveaway, there are a few things you got to do. There are a few things you got to do here for the Spotlight Sports Network for the giveaway. And here's how you enter. First rule is you subscribe to the YouTube channel in the link, follow our IG at spotlightsportsnetwork.com or at SL Sports Network. Follow our Twitter at SL Sports Network as well, and comment done under the photo. So definitely check it out. And remember, the deadline ends on the 29th of this month. So you guys do not want to end up missing that on the merchandise giveaway. So definitely get on top of it. Get yourselves entered in. And there you go. One of our good lucky winners will definitely have our giveaways. So definitely check it out on the Spotlight Sports Network. All right, guys. So my best for last, and I really would not need to have sound or noise up onto it, only because I know who the two are. So I'm going to end up breaking all of this down from here. And let's go ahead and talk about our best for last top two. My top two winners and losers of the championship game. And I think you guys already know from this point on who those are. So here we go. So it's no secret that already the number 2 team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Tom Brady and the rest of this team. What Tom was able to do with the Buccaneers is he turned this team around. Absolutely turned this team around and made him a championship caliber type of team. They're buttoned up, they're tightened up. I think it was very interesting. But the only reason why I'm putting them at number 2 is because of the fact that Tom Brady, he threw 3 picks and still made it to a Super Bowl. Now, those were some interesting decisions by Green Bay and so much more, but I think it'll be very interesting to see how all of this pans out. But I'd like to see where they go with this. But I think Tampa Bay, I mean, they got a hell of a defense. They got a lot of really good weapons. It's going to be an exciting Super Bowl, but I'd like to see a little bit more better improvement from the Buccaneers. I think this will be very, very interesting to watch. And finally, the number 1 team is obviously the Kansas City Chiefs. Can they not do anything? Can they not do anything wrong? Because this team looked absolutely right. 38 points against 24. God, they absolutely blew the tires on Buffalo. And Buffalo is still a young team. Let's not disregard that. Because I think I just think Buffalo has a lot more learning to do, but it'll be very interesting. They're not that far away. But Kansas City, Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, the defense. It's going to be very interesting to see how Kansas City does for the next couple of years. But as of this moment right now, they blew the tires wide open, and I think you already kind of know how this scenario is going to end up. So those are the two, the Buccaneers at number 2 and the Chiefs at number 1. Then they are representing in the Super Bowl. Now let's talk about the 2 losers of the championship weekend. So I'm putting the Buffalo Bills at number 2. Now, they managed to end up scoring at least 24 points against Kansas City, but they eventually got the tires blown out. They were very one-dimensional. That's the one thing you can say. They didn't really have a solid run game. Zach Moss was out, and eventually they got to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's 24 years old. He still has a lot of learning to do, and he has a lot of building. So I'm very interested to see how Buffalo recovers from this, but I don't think they're going to struggle in any way. I think they'll be just fine. But in my opinion, I feel like Buffalo, their defense needs at least a little bit of help, a better run game, and I think they'll be set. They've already got their deep ball wide receiver. They already have at least a bunch of really good defensive guys like Tre'Davious White and Tremaine Edmonds. So I think it'll be very interesting to see. So who knows? I think Buffalo, they're not that far away, but they still need at least a few pieces. And my number 1 loser was the Green Bay Packers. What the hell were they doing all throughout those opportunities? You had a bunch of opportunities to scoring points against Tom. Tom threw the ball and got picked 3 times. You couldn't convert that. They only had 6 points. That's unacceptable. And a lot of it you gotta end up putting Aaron Rodgers on the accountability list. He's got to be accountable for this because this is ridiculous. And it's really interesting to see how Green Bay is going to favor for next year, but who knows if Aaron Rodgers will be back. If not, I don't know. But those calls, not to mention the call for the field goal, but a lot of those instincts were all on the quarterback. I thought it was very interesting with Aaron Rodgers, but Packers were number 1. So the 2 that are the winners are obviously the ones that are representing in the Super Bowl, and I'm very excited to see how that's going to be. Number 2, Tampa, and number 1, Kansas City, and then, of course, number 2, Buffalo, and number 1, Green Bay as the losers in this one. I thought it was, again, I think this is very reasonable. I think this is very interesting, and how that, all of this is really going to go about. But at the same time, I really think that the Super Bowl is going to be very, very interesting. Now, who knows how this outcome is going to be? You got Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes. You got, you got defenses, you got offenses, you got so much of it everywhere. So it'll be interesting to see how this really pans out, but I think the Super Bowl is going to be very, very interesting. What will the Browns do if they sign J.J. Watt? Well, they'll get a really good pass rusher, but I don't think the pass rush is really the problem, Phantom. I think the secondaries are the big issue. I think they are the absolute big issue because they've been coughing up a lot of big-time plays, not to mention giving up points. So I don't think it's really the pass rush that's the problem. I just truly think it's definitely the secondaries. And I think they really need to shape up the secondaries big time. Free agency or draft, however they need to end up addressing it. But if they don't fix it, then it's going to be really, really bad. NASCAR driver Michael Annett played for the Waterloo Blackhawks in the championship Clark Cup year. Only 2 weeks until 2 weeks. 2 weeks, guys, until the great race, the Daytona 500 starts the official season for NASCAR in 2021. I can't wait to see it. Michael Jordan, he's debuting in his driving team with Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace Jr. I think it'll be very interesting to watch that. You guys do not want to end up missing that. But thank you guys so much for joining me here on the live stream, and we will see you guys tomorrow night.